seated, please. Excuse me, our new majority leader has some engagements coming up. They put some Skinso sauce on it?
Yeah, right.
Hey, you can tell you in South Louisiana, it's the only place you sign in and they give you off. All right, welcome everybody. This is a great occasion. I'm gonna let Gordy welcome everybody. Our parish president, Gordon Duff.
Wow, what a great crowd. We'd like to go ahead and get this started by thanking everyone for coming. And this wouldn't have happened without everyone in this room. And a quick, I'd like to go ahead and do it. Get Jim Alford to come up and do an invocation, blessing all this. Mr. Jim, I know you weren't expecting it, but we need a prayer. Jim Alford, Tony Alford's dad, father.
Gordy's running the show.
What do I have to do, Gordon?
It's a quick prayer.
A prayer?
Pray for everyone.
Well, bless us, Lord, for all these fine people being here and for the work that's been accomplished. And, wish them further accomplishments to finish. And God bless everybody.
Thank you. Good job. He wasn't expecting it. Also,
Sue's gonna do. Sue, you gonna do the pledge?
Mr. Sue Henry with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
All right.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to go ahead and read off everyone here played a part in the Braganza to the Gulf levee system and for the better Terrebonne Parish, Lafourche Parish, and of course, Louisiana and the United States of America. Office of U.S. Senator Kennedy, In-State Regional Representative Leah Long, Office of U.S. Senator Cassidy, Samantha Bopp, Congressman, U.S. Representatives, Majority Leader Steve Scalise. Thank you for coming, Steve. That gives us a big foot up in Washington, and plus when you go to Washington, you got a nice office up there. U.S. Congressman Garrett Graves, who also was, he was also head of CPRA when it first started, which myself and others served on it, Reggie and a lot of others in here. And Congressman Steve Scalise was a state representative, which I served with in the House many years ago, and we welcomed them here. U.S. Corps of Engineers, Stacy Brown, U.S. Corps of Engineers Commander New Orleans District, Colonel Cullen Jones, welcome, Colonel. U.S. Corps of Engineers Mark Wingate, U.S. Corps of Engineers Chief Lake Project Training Facility Brett Hare, U.S. Corps of Engineers Lacey Shaw, which is the project manager for this project in the Corps of Engineers. We deal quite a bit with Lacey. Thank you for coming. CPRA Board Chairman Chip Klein, been fabulous with Braganza to the Gulf, as well as taking over from Garrett Graves and Jerome Zerang. CPRA Executive Director, Bryn Haas, been there every step of the way with us. Louisiana State Senator Mike Feasey, Louisiana House of Representatives Beryl Amity, House of Representatives Joe Orgeron, Terrebonne Council Chairman Darren Guidry, Terrebonne Council John Amadei, Terrebonne Council Dirk Guidry, Terrebonne Councilman Steve Trostaclair, which this is actually his district. Welcome, Steve. Of course, Tony Alford, who is the master of ceremonies, but we wouldn't have had this without his wife, Glenda. Round of applause for Glenda now. That's who built this levee. Executive Director Reggie Dupre, great job as usual. North Lafourche, President Board of Commissioners Corey Keefe. North Lafourche Executive Director Dwayne Bourgeois. Moganzan Action Coalition Jay Walker, Henry Boulay, and Michael Henry. Delta Coast Engineers, Moganzan Local Project, Mitch Momoyne. T. Baker Smith, President. Kenny Smith, Clifford Smith served on the Corps, the Mississippi River Commission, and O'Neill Marlborough and his group with GIS, Stevie Smith, with a lot of other engineers. We want to recognize them. They work a lot with us. Other Corps members, Chris Dunn, Stuart Waits, Heather Briscoe, and of course, James McGinnis, who's worked, thank you, James, worked hand in hand with us. And then the Terrebonne Levee commissioners, Carl Chauvin, Sue Henry, been there from day one, and a veteran. Jeff Daisy, and God bless his father, Buddy Daisy, who passed away, who was on the board. Jack Moore, Dan Davis, Danny Walker, and North Lafourche Levee District, Jay Petrie, and on the Terrebonne Parish, Mort Black, Coastal Director of Terrebonne. You know, and if I missed anyone, I don't know how I could have, but please forgive me. You know, about 17 years ago, we started the construction journey of Moganzan to the Gulf when we decided that waiting on a Corps was going to be a long time coming, and that's been 17 years ago. But to the Corps of Engineers, Colonel, everyone, thank y'all. Thank y'all for starting with your $418 million, good start. And of course, we're here to dedicate this beautiful floodgate at a plus 21. You know, we decided on our own to build our floodgates to 18 and start building our levees, which the majority of them are 12 and a half. Actually, this one here is 13 and a half, so we have lifted some of them. You know, the people of Terrebonne Parish tax themselves 3/4 cent sales tax. It passed it by 82%, I believe. And then through CPRA, started with Garrett Graves, Chip Klein, Jerome Zerang was chairman at one time, Governors Kathleen Blanco, Bobby Jindal, and of course John Bell Edwards today. We have gotten upwards with coastal restoration, with Moganzan, with the monies that the people of Terrebonne Parish put in. We're going upwards towards $2 billion in work constructed and on the way to be constructed. And Terrebonne Parish on its own, we built 31 pump stations. We went from 10,000 cubic foot per second to 17,000 cubic foot per second, from 48-inch pumps to 66-inch pumps. And we built, like I say, 31 pump stations. 40 of our large pumps out of 100 are telemetry and SCADA now. So we remotely operate all our big pumps besides our EOC center. And, you know, when Rita came through Terrebonne Parish, 11,000 homes were flooded. In 2019, when Barry came, we weren't quite finished over in Port-au-Chan, and 11 homes were flooded. And for the last few hurricanes, 0 homes were flooded, thanks to everyone in this room. What a great achievement. You know, it's a lot of time. And, you know, this was spearheaded by Tony Alford. You know, Tony never quit, never took a per diem, pushed it, along with Reggie Dupre, the port board. The North Lafourche board came in, because Port of Morganza is in Lafourche, Corey, and Dwayne. And, you know, everyone started meeting with the Corps, General Kaiser, and everyone else from the different colonels, and this is where we at to this day, thanks to everyone in this room. And it's a testament to what can happen. Terrebonne Parish has built 2 lock systems that are operational in Bayou Terrebonne and in Petite Caillou. We are under construction of the Home and Navigational $460 million lock system, and in 3 years, Terrebonne Parish will be totally coming and going under lock systems as our seas rise, and they're all rising. And no matter what you believe's causing the rise, they're rising. And Terrebonne Parish is ready. Lafourche Parish is able and ready. And with the help of the Corps, we'll finish this off at 21 feet. And I want to thank the Corps and everyone here and all our congressional staff and our state delegation. Some of them who's not here, Tanner McGee, and I don't think Jerome Sarang's here, Beryl Amadi and Mike Feasey, and Brett Elaine. I mean, they've been great. And so with that, I want to turn it over to Tony Alford and thank y'all on behalf of the people of Terrebonne Parish. Terrebonne Parish is the good earth. God bless the people of Terrebonne Parish and the United States of America and our veterans. Thank y'all, and God bless each and every one of you.
This project could have not even been close without Gordon Dove. I got to tell you, when he, worked his way into chairman of natural resources and started getting state money before we ever got close to federal money, this project would have never happened without Gordy Dove. And Steve and Garrett, I know y'all in a hurry, so I'm going to try to make this quick, right? If Reggie was up here, I couldn't tell you that. Oh, thank you. Gorilla, you're too kind. Too kind. All right, so Lacey, I told you I was going to put you on the spot, right? So my wife has been grilling me to stay positive, stay positive. It's like it's never enough, we got to get it going, and so I'm gonna stay positive, and I have an icebreaker, all right? And at the same time I was looking for an icebreaker, I got a call from Boudreaux. He wanted to remain anonymous, so he just said Boudreaux, okay? So Boudreaux called me, he says, boy, that Colonel Jones, you got a good one. He's going to help you build that Morganza to the Gulf project. And, he said, I said, well, Boudreaux, what's making you think that? He said, well, I've been waiting around for the Corps forever to come build this bridge that had disintegrated. He says, I've been trying to get across this bayou because I want to whoop Clarence's ass. Clarence is across the bayou, and Clarence has been screaming and hollering at me. The bridge disintegrated, can't get to it. Then here shows up Colonel Jones. Colonel Jones got that bridge built. So he said, man, I finally got that bridge. You're going to love him. He says, he said, I came down for breakfast. The bridge was built. He says, I told Marie, fix me a big breakfast. She fixes a big breakfast. He says, Marie, I'm going to be right back. I'm going across that bridge, and I'm going to beat Clarence's ass. Boy, so sure enough, Marie fixes him breakfast. He eats his big breakfast. He takes off. Well, Marie's still cleaning up in the kitchen. Boudreaux shows back up. She goes, Clarence, you already went across that bridge and you beat Clarence's butt? He says, oh, no, Marie, when I was going across the bridge, I looked up. It said Clarence, 10'6". He didn't look that big from this side of the bayou. Lacey, that one's for you. All right. Okay. All seriously now. All right. Terrebonne Parish. Of course, we built 74 miles of levees, 14 floodgates. Gordy, I'm going to kind of go a few things that Gordy already said. Gordy, you stole my speech. Over 20 water control structures. Spent over $1 billion currently of state and local money so far. Thank you, Chip and Garrett. All these ribbon cutting and groundbreakings. What's so great about this deal, we've gone, where you at, Mark Wingate? Where you at, Mark? Mark Wingate. How many ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings have we done so far? You with the Corps and us. What you think? I mean, just throw a number out. Just throw a number out. Yeah. This is, no, groundbreakings that you shown up that we've paid for. How many do you think? So the reason I ask you, because we've been to a lot together. And what's so great about this day, guess what? This is the first groundbreaking that we do with federal money where the Corps is footing the bill. That's what we've been waiting on. We all know that the Corps is very capable. They built 350 miles of levees and flood walls between New Orleans, the West Bank, and Lake Pontchartrain, ranging from 13 feet to 32 feet in 3 years. Boy, you would happen now. Here in Terrebonne, we live in an emergency. Y'all all know that, right? We can close the gaps. Of course, you know when I say gaps, Lacey, I'm talking about Miners Canal, that big gap, and build our levees higher. If Ida would have been, what's scary, you know, a lot of people congratulate us on the levees. They performed during Ida, right? If that storm would have been 30 miles over to the west, not only would we have had the wind damage, we would have had major water damage as well. So one of the things that worked out really good by God's good grace was the storm was over that way, and the Corps invested, or the feds invested, in the first 13 feet of a 48-mile levee in South Lafourche. And Wendell and South Lafourche built an additional 5 feet. That storm surge was 16 feet. That levee was 18 feet because of the feds' investment and South Lafourche's nonstop attitude to get it to another 5 feet. Otherwise, they would have been in trouble with that surge. So let's celebrate this occasion, but also realize that the next hurricane season starts in 174 days. The one request, and I think I make this request based on Terrebonne, Lafourche, and St. Mary, approximately 250,000 people. Remember, when you guys started building the levee for New Orleans, there was approximately 250,000 to 300,000 people left in New Orleans, right? Well, we have that here in these 3 parishes. Treat us like you treated New Orleans. That's what we would ask. That we try to protect the people, and we talk about the mitigation. We do what y'all did and are doing with the mitigation over there. And Steve and Garrett, I think we might need a little congressional help on that, right? So if we can get that, we can do what New Orleans has done and be able to sleep good at night, knowing if a storm comes, we're going to be well protected. And but let's do that before the tragedy instead of after the tragedy. And with that, our next speaker, Congressman Steve Scalise. Steve Scalise proudly represents the 1st Congressional District of Louisiana, stretching from the beautiful North Shore of Lake Pontchartrain and the culturally distinct New Orleans suburbs to the vibrant bayous and wetlands abundant in natural resources. He was elected to Congress in 2008 after serving in the Louisiana State Legislature from 1996 to 2008. He serves as the House Republican Whip, the 2nd highest position in the House leadership. Steve Scalise.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Tony. And for everybody here, this is a day of celebration. It's a day to reflect back on how we got here, but talk about the many big challenges that we still have ahead, because this has always been a work in progress. Protecting the people of South Louisiana is a top priority for all of us here, but we know it's something that we always have to be doing to battle water, to battle hurricanes and other storms. And it's been just such an honor to work so many years with so many of the people here. I look at Reggie. Reggie and I came into the state legislature together in 1996. And when I co-authored his bill, when I'm a representative from the Metairie, Jefferson area, working with Reggie, who had this idea to say, whatever money's come in from drilling in the Gulf of Mexico, shouldn't we dedicate the lion's share of that to restoring Louisiana's coast? And this was back when coastal restoration was not a universally embraced priority, and Reggie made it that. And when we got that bill on the ballot, I think at the time it passed with the highest percentage of any constitutional amendment. And there were people thinking, okay, maybe people from South Louisiana will vote for it. North Louisiana is not going to care about restoring South Louisiana's coast with state dollars. And yet in North Louisiana passed almost as overwhelmingly as it did here, because the whole state realized if we don't protect this area, then North Louisiana is going to be oceanfront property soon. And so congratulations, Reggie, for making this a state priority to protect not just the people here, but to make sure that we're protecting what's so important to our culture in Louisiana. And then Gordy, you know, when Gordy strolled into the Capitol a few years later, he won with the overwhelming margin of 5 votes. So we deemed him and nicknamed him Landslide. And still to this day, I call Gordy Landslide. And people go, why you call him that? You know, you go ask him. And we, you know, we served on so many different areas, but to think that, you know, you fast forward and starting in 2011, I'd actually be representing Terrebonne and Lafourche in Congress and working with these same people and so many more. It's been a treat, because what you see is the passion that everybody here has. Because it's real easy. When you need help from government, and you're not always going to get what you want, and even if you get it, it's not going to be as much as you want, it's easy to just sit back and complain. And Morganza to the Gulf was one of those ideas, you know, started in the 90s, and they said it's never going to get any federal funding. And then the cost estimates came out. You know, $10 billion is what they said it was going to cost. Well, if you look at that on paper and you look at how the Corps does their cost estimates, they said it's never going to be justified to get federal money. Well, y'all could have just stopped there and said, well, you know, we're on our own. And for a while, y'all acted as if there may not be other help to come, but you didn't let it stop you. You figured out how to get local money. You taxed yourselves. You went to the state. And over time, put up about $400 million of your own money, maybe wondering you may never get that federal help. But I know, and really Mitch and Dwayne started this idea that why should we just sit back and take the $10 billion cost estimate the Corps has? If we don't agree with it, let's go revamp it. Let's go re-justify to the Corps that this is not a $10 billion cost if it's done the way we know how to do it. You know, and you showed the Corps how to build levees better, smarter, and by the way, a whole lot cheaper. And then finally you were able to get a new cost estimate down to $3 billion. And that's when I knew we had a chance. Because at $10 billion, everybody could say no to you. You could have all the fancy titles in the world. We got some pretty cool offices, as Gordy talked about, might be cooler in a few weeks. But none of that matters if they have all the justification in the world to tell you no. But once it went down to $3 billion, we knew we had the arguments, and we met with OMB, the Office of Management and Budget. And I know in that meeting, you saw a different attitude from them. And this was just a few years ago, where OMB recognized, you know what? We have to look at this project differently. And what was able to make the case was not just a new estimate, but it was all the local money y'all have put up. Because just like with LA1, and frankly, it's a lot of the same people, you know, we finally got rid of Henri's job, you know, as the LA1 director, so they found him a new job. And, you know, if he got that done, why don't you bring him here, and he's going to help get this done too. But in that case, I remember when I was talking to Secretary Lane Chow, and when I was able to show how much money the locals put up for LA1, everybody's got a great idea. Everybody's got, you know, hey, my $1 billion idea is the best idea. Okay, how much have you put up? Well, none, but we're just looking for you to fund the whole thing. Well, if you can't put any of your local skin in the game, you're not making the argument that it's a really good project. Y'all put skin in the game, and having that $400 million already on the table, starting with the locals, going to the state, partnering up with Chip, with Garrett, CPRA, and saying we made it a local priority, but frankly, it's got a lot of federal interest. Look at all the people that are behind these flood walls that we have planned and these gates that we have planned. And look at all the energy infrastructure. It doesn't just help us in South Louisiana, it helps the whole country. And if this goes away, if this floods and is shut down for just a couple of days, the price of oil on world markets moves. That's how important this area is to the country. And OMB went back and said, you know what, you're right. We agree, we will no longer stand in your way. Okay, great, now all we now have to do now is go get congressional language to make a new start here where you had everybody fighting against any project. It wasn't against this project, Morganza. They didn't want any new starts because the Corps, as we know, you look at all the projects that y'all want to fund, there's way more projects than there are dollars coming in to fund. But we were able to make the case with all of what y'all have done over the years to say, if any project in America deserves to be a new start, it's this one. And so we were able to get that language in a few years ago and then get over $12 million to start it. And that's what we're celebrating today. Not that Morganza's finally being built. Y'all have been building it for years with your own money. But we finally got the federal government through the Corps of Engineers to be a sponsoring partner along with it. And today is the first new start of new federal money coming into what ultimately is going to be a highly successful project that's going to protect hundreds of thousands of people here in South Louisiana who deserve that protection, all that energy infrastructure that benefits the entire country and our friends around the world. And so we're going to continue, and Garrett and I already are working on language that is floating around in some of these bills that may or may not pass in the next week or two up in Congress. We are hoping to get even more money in. We have over $30 million of requests in to continue this, but it would not happen. We would not be here with all the people here who have put skin in the game for years, Reggie, for decades, making this area, Terrebonne, Lafourche Parish, a priority, and putting the money up to show people how important it is to all of you, so that when I go and Garrett goes and we want to fight to get more money and everybody else has got an idea, nobody else has an idea that has this much local investment, that has this much importance, where the people made it a priority first, and then we brought the federal government along. So for Colonel Jones, welcome to this journey. It's been a long journey, and the Corps of Engineers, to their credit, has helped when we needed help to say, look, we need you to go reevaluate this project. If they didn't do that, we wouldn't be here today. But it was the locals pushing it, and ultimately it was a team effort with everybody here and some really good smelling food. So I don't want to stand in the way any longer. But I want to thank everybody who's been a part of this, because again, you don't get federal help if you don't do all the things that y'all have done for a long time, even with the valid skeptical attitude that maybe they never will come, but if they don't come, we're going to do it anyway. And because you're doing it, we're able to get the federal government to step up and help be a part of getting it done. Let's go get this thing done. Congratulations.
Thanks for your help. All right, our next speaker. Hey, Garrett. No, wait a second. So Garrett, I remember as much or more than anybody. First time I went to D.C., I think you were staffing for Senator Vitter maybe when I went. And I remember the disappointment in your face when we found out that I think we didn't make WERDA, or something happened where it was just, it kind of stopped us in our tracks. And I remember, you can kind of read somebody for sure. And I remember your face. And I remember, well, this guy is not full of bull. This guy is really taking it like this is his project, and he was so disappointed. And I remember that being in D.C. and knew that you were really in this project like the rest of us. And when you took over the CPRA and the deal we were able to cut with the state to match us dollar for dollar. So you've been instrumental in this thing. Before I even read your repertoire, I wanted to say that, because I remember how awesome you were. So Garrett Graves represents Louisiana's 6th Congressional District in the United States.
Hey, thanks, Tony.
Hey, get out of here, man.
So, hey, look.
Hey, I'm supposed to be the master of ceremonies, man. which includes part of Terrebonne, Lafourche. Garrett is currently ranking member in the House Transportation Infrastructure Committee on Aviation and is the ranking member for the Select Committee on Climate Crisis. By the way, my son was real excited about that. He sits on the Airport Commission here, right? He also serves on the House Natural Resource Committee. Garrett's leadership on transportation, infrastructure, energy, maritime, fisheries, coastal restoration, disaster are an asset to Congress. Garrett is a native of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where he resides with his wife, Carissa, and their 3 children. Garrett Graves.
Hey, thanks, Tony. Look, first of all, I want to say I'm looking around this room and I was trying to count as President Dove was introducing and thanking everybody here, and by my count, I think there were 4 of you that he left out. And I don't know what he has against you, but I just want to thank everybody. Now, look, seriously, I'll tell you a true story. We did our master plan for the coast back when I was working for the state with Chip and Brett and all the great folks from CPRA, and we came and we sat down. He was the chairman of the Natural Resources Committee, and our plan had to go through his committee, had to get blessing through his committee in order for it to be enacted. And so we sit down with him, and I think that was me and Z and maybe Chip, and we're going through everything. and he said, well, look, that's not enough. We're like, well, Mr. Chairman, Terrebonne Parish has more money than any other parish in the state. He's like, yeah, but that's not enough. And so just sitting there just pushing us and pushing us and pushing us, and I think we ended up squeezing out a little bit more money, but every single time just always pushing us to add more, to do more, to get more done for Terrebonne Parish. And as a result, you've seen the extraordinary progress here in the parish. And of course, Tony, I was going to invite my kids, but after hearing you joke, I'm glad I didn't. No, seriously, Tony's another one that just continues driving this project forward. But look, what I want to say is first, this is a great day because we are doing a groundbreaking. This is the first groundbreaking on this project with federal funds. And that's really important because, you know, we're here doing bake sales and garage sales and everything else we can, sales tax, property tax, everything we can to cobble the dollars together to get this project moving forward. Meanwhile, the federal government, as we know, has trillions of dollars, and they need to be a partner on this project because the federal government is going to spend money in Terrebonne Parish no matter what. They're going to spend money being proactive, building projects like this, or they're going to spend money after the disaster, picking up the pieces, and that's after our community has been destroyed. It's not an option. So, Lacey, I'm not going to be positive. Look, 20 years ago, I wasn't married, I didn't have kids, I didn't have gray hair. Maybe I could grow a beard, but not like this one. But 20 years ago is when we started. 20 years ago is when we started this. Look, I think Terrebonne Parish, I think South Louisiana is worth protecting. I do. I live in South Louisiana. I love this community, and I think it's worth protecting. As a federal government, as a state government, as a local government, we have got to have a project development and delivery process that reflects the urgency of what it is we're trying to do. It has been 20 years since the federal government got involved in this. 20 years. Look, I'm excited, and I'll tell you, without Steve putting his shoulder behind this thing, I'd call people and ask for meetings and everything, and they'd be like, yeah, we'll get to you later, and then all of a sudden we'd get Steve to call and be like, yeah, we'll be there tomorrow. So we'd sit down and have these meetings, and I'm telling you, without his involvement, we wouldn't be here today. But I'm glad we are. And look, I'm going to stop with the negative. So now we're moving. Dirt's turning, we're moving. It is unacceptable for us to stop. And soon to be Majority Leader Scalise just mentioned, we have $30 million more dollars coming to this project in an appropriations bill moving. We're working on trying to get more revenue sharing dollars to the state, which, as he indicated under the Constitution, has to go to projects like this. They're required. There are a lot of people that really fought for this, and I quickly want to thank, again, Steve Scalise for all of his work and his team. I want to thank Chip Klein and Brett for all their work. It wouldn't have happened without them continuing to push this. Great people like President Dove and Tony and Gordy, our state legislators who have put up the match money and continue to push this thing. And uncharacteristically, I want to thank Mark Wingate. Mark, thank you. We wouldn't be here without you pushing in D.C. I got to give a shout out to Colonel Murphy's been great, and Colonel Jones. We know you're going to be awesome, but you got big shoes to fill. Look, this isn't the first one of these. We're going to do more and more of these because I'm going to say it again in closing. South Louisiana is worth protecting. Secretary Brown, we've got to have a project development delivery process that reflects the urgency of the needs. 20 years is unacceptable. And we can do better. We will do better. And just last night, Steve and I voted on a new WRDA bill that's going to bring billions of additional investment into South Louisiana. And Chip's not going to tell you this, but I am. But it's going to free up at least hundreds of millions of dollars in some of the money Chip thought he was going to spend paying the federal government. And now, Chip, you get to spend it right here in Terrebonne Parish. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Garrett. Our next speaker, in March 2022, Ms. Stacy Brown was selected as Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Army in the Office of the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works. In this role, she serves as the principal advisor on management and budget issues to the ASA and is responsible for all matters related to the development and implementation of the Civil Works budget. Ms. Brown, previous senior executive assignments included serving as the Civil Works Chief of Programs Integration for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers at Corps Headquarters in Washington, D.C., and as the Chief of the Planning and Policy Division for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, also at Corps Headquarters. Ms. Brown graduated from Tufts University with a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering, a Bachelor of Arts in English, and a minor in Engineering Management. She is a certified project management professional. Ms. Stacy Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Alford, and thank you to Representative Scalise and to Representative Graves and Mr. Klein and to all of you who've worked so hard to move this project forward. I'm honored to represent Mr. Michael Connor, the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works, who sends his regrets and was not able to be here today. And I'm really happy to be back here today. I appreciated the opportunity to visit with you all back in August with senior officials from the Office of Management and Budget, and it gave me a really good appreciation for the project because I was able to see it from the air. And I understand the need and the urgency to complete this project. The $378.5 million from the bipartisan infrastructure law that we've dedicated to the Morganza to the Gulf project is a significant portion of the federal investment in this ongoing effort, which, as has been noted, will reduce the risk of hurricane and storm damage for more than 200,000 people and 53,000 structures in industrial and residential areas. And through this project, we're meeting a lot of this administration's key goals by tackling the climate crisis, by advancing environmental justice, and investing in tribal nations and underserved communities. And that bipartisan infrastructure law makes a once-in-a-generation investment in our nation's infrastructure, so much of which is right here in South Louisiana. And it is the vital foundation for a strong and resilient economy. The Corps received over $17 billion in funds in that bipartisan infrastructure law and is putting these resources to work by making long overdue investments at our nation's ports and waterways and to support resilient communities and habitats like those here. The funds available for Morganza to the Gulf will be used to initiate the design and construction of priority floodgates, as well as the construction of priority levee reaches. And this investment in South Louisiana will work to confront climate change and the sea level rise impacts to these communities by reducing flood risk, restoring ecosystems, and promoting community resilience, just as we do in other areas like South Florida. It's also crucial to note that this project will sustain Louisiana fisheries and culture, which I had the good fortune to partake of last night. Had a very nice dinner, had some nice seafood, and got to hear, a band come by and play, just all those traditional New Orleans things. And it'll also support offshore wind energy development. And I think what's so great about this endeavor, like so many have talked about, is the partnership. The partnership and collaboration that's been demonstrated through this project is exemplary, and it absolutely underscores the commitment we all have to deliver this critical flood risk management system to residents of South Louisiana. Without the key partnership in place at all levels of government, this project would not be moving forward. And I thank you all for your dedication to this effort. As was noted earlier, it does make a difference when we have partners and communities that put skin in the game the way you all have done. So I'm honored to be here to celebrate this major step forward for the McGanns of the Gulf project as we work together to combat climate change, provide for disadvantaged communities, and promote resilience for South Louisiana. And I would say that, as has been noted, the federal government is late to the party, but we're here now. So look forward to working with you all in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Okay, the next speaker, Boudreaux's already told me a little bit about, like we talked about. Colonel Cullen Jones took command as the 65th Commander and District Engineer of the New Orleans District, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in September. He comes to New Orleans having recently served as the Chief of Staff for the Office of Security Cooperation in Iraq at the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. Colonel Jones is a native of Delaware and received his U.S. Army commission in 1999 from West Point. He has served in leadership and staff positions in Kosovo, Iraq, Afghanistan, and multiple locations in the United States. New Orleans is his second command with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, previously commanding the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Nashville District from 2017 to 2019. As Commander and District Engineer, Colonel Jones managed the water resource development and navigable waterways operations for the Cumberland and Tennessee River basins covering 59,000 square miles with 42 field offices touching 7 states and a workforce of over 700 employees. Colonel Cullen Jones.
Thank you very much, Tony, and thank you everybody for joining us today. I'm so glad that the weather allowed us to be on site to commemorate this occasion. First off, I would like to thank the Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works, Ms. Stacy Brown, along with our Congressmen Scalise and Graves for joining us today. Your participation truly underscores the commitment of the administration, Congress, and the Corps of Engineers in this critical flood management project. I'd also like to thank all of our local and state partners in this project. You have all been moving out on it for years, putting both local money and expertise in the game, pushing Morganza of the Gulf forward. Just watching the system perform during the hurricane seasons in 20 and 21 is a testament to your commitment and sheer dedication. And when talking about commitment and dedication, I can think of none other than Sue Henry. As one of your original levee board members being appointed in 1986, he has been at the forefront of this project. When you speak to him about Morganza of the Gulf, he would have said, we've come a long way, and that's truly an understatement. Sue has been a lifelong resident of Terrebonne Parish. He is an Army veteran serving in the 1950s and also fought during the Korean War as a part of the Big Red One as one of the Chosen's Frozen. Sue's legacy will be this system of levees and floodgates, which will protect, as you've heard, nearly 200,000 residents in the area. And its success is going to be a credit to many people, but probably none more than Sue. His life has truly been one of service, both to his country and to the residents of Terrebonne Parish. And on behalf of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers New Orleans District, it is my great honor to present you with a Team New Orleans Coin of Excellence as a small token of our appreciation. In addition, I also want to thank everyone that made today possible. Events like these don't just happen. They require a considerable amount of time, energy, and flexibility. So thanks to all of you for making this such a wonderful event. And today, I am happy that we're breaking ground on the Humboldt Canal Preload project. This is a critical step moving forward to complete this portion of Morganza of the Gulf. So some of you might be asking what a preload project is. Given the dynamic environment of South Louisiana, we can't, unfortunately, just start building levees or flood walls throughout. We've got to prepare the ground. So by this, we're going to set the conditions to have a foundation that can receive not only our structures, but the forces that Mother Nature will eventually throw at it. We're going to be able to accomplish this by placing over 170,000 cubic yards of material and support its consolidation and compaction using systems such as wick drains. Exciting stuff. You know, this is some of the innovative techniques that we've used on some of our most challenging levee construction projects. But as you've heard, this is also a milestone because it's going to be the first federal construction as a part of Morganza to Gulf at $12.5 million. But there's many more to come. You know, today's the first, and we're going to see many more groundbreakings in the future. In 20 and 21, we got money to start, and then just recently, as you heard, both the administration and Congress furthered that commitment by providing an additional $378 million specifically for construction of Morganza to the Gulf. You know, we are working at all levels of the Corps to put this money into construction. We are going to leverage all our capabilities as this is a priority so that we can meet both the Congress and administration's commitments. You know, we have a lot of work ahead. And as with any construction for flood risk and storm risk reduction, there's challenges, both known and those to be found out. But we're going to be able to meet those challenges as a team of teams because we have partners with the experience and knowledge to meet the challenge. Just looking around at what has already been accomplished, we are going to be able to move forward together quickly to continue to reduce storm risk for these 200,000 residents and businesses in the area. So I look forward to working with each of you, and I also look forward to seeing you at the next groundbreaking. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Colonel. All right, our next speaker, Chip Klein, has served as chairman of the Louisiana Coastal Protection Restoration Authority Board and director of coastal activities for the state of Louisiana since 2018. Mr. Coach Klein oversees policy initiatives related to Louisiana's coastal program and manages the day-to-day operations of the Governor's Office of Coastal Activities. In this position, he is responsible for integrating the functions of all state agencies as they relate to coastal protection and has been essential to advancing the objectives of the State Coastal Master Plan in Louisiana and Washington, D.C. And on a personal note, I can't think of anybody better that I would rather work with the CPRA and the things that you have done and going far beyond to help us in this area. And I'd like to personally thank you. And our next speaker, Chip Klein.
Well, thank you, Tony. You know, I was listening to Garrett just a minute ago take a trip down memory lane about how when we were meeting with Gordy in 2012 on the master plan, and he said that that's just not enough. Getting the most money out of any coastal parish just isn't enough. And I can tell you, Congressman, that some things change and some things remain the same. And one of the things that has certainly remained the same is that you can give Gordy Dove $100 million in surplus, you can build him a $400 million lock, and he says, Chip, it just ain't enough. So the governor told me the other day, he said, Chip, maybe if you told him no one time, he'd stop asking. Keep asking, Gordy, because as Congressman Graves said, this place is worth protecting. But I want to take a trip down memory lane of my own, if I could. I remember when I started at CPRA in February of 2008. Wendell Curall, who was a member of the CPRA board, went on about a 25-minute rant. Garrett was chairing the board at this time. Garrett always had a hard time running those meetings, and God knows we've all had a hard time controlling Wendell over the years. But he went on a 25-minute rant about the fact that Morganza to the Gulf and La Rosa Golden Meadow were left out of the emergency supplementals following Hurricane Katrina. And quite honestly, ladies and gentlemen, that was the first time that I had been introduced to the determination, the commitment, and really the fire and the passion that people have for hurricane protection and flood protection in this region. And that was on the heels of Reach, I believe J1 was the first levee reach that was completed using state and local dollars. And since that time, over $1 billion if you think about it. Once HNC Lock is completed, over $1 billion in state and local funding will be complete. Show me another project in the United States of America that can say that. There isn't one. There isn't one. And so we were talking on the way down here, Brent and I were, and Russell Caffrey, who heads up our intergovernmental affairs in the governor's office. You know, what is it about Morganza? And one of the things that we were talking about, it doesn't matter if you are Joe Biden or Donald Trump, or if you are Chuck Schumer or Mitch McConnell, or if you're Troy Carter or Steve Scalise or Garrett Graves, there is something about Morganza to the Gulf that is important to you. It is important to the entire political spectrum. It represents every single priority that state government focuses on and the federal government focuses on. Think about it. Hurricane protection, environmental restoration, oil and gas, renewable energy, climate adaptation, resilience, equity, environmental justice. Morganza to the Gulf checks every single one of those boxes. So it doesn't matter what politician or what political party you're talking to. We can sell Morganza to the Gulf. It's easy. And the reason why we can sell it, ladies and gentlemen, is because this place matters. It matters. I say this every time I come here. I don't know of anybody, any people that care more about the place that they call home than the people that live in Terrebonne and Lafourche parishes. And so for a job like Brent and I are in that seems overwhelming and impossible at times, it's refreshing to work with people like Gordy Dove and Tony Alford, Dwayne Bourgeois, Corey Keith, that continue to hold us accountable. And I'm going to say this, and I hope, Martin, you aren't broadcasting live here because this is a little bit of a inappropriate story. I coined this new phrase recently in a meeting with Senator John Kennedy. I told him, I said, Senator, I really need you to have a fire in the ass when it comes to this project. And my colleagues were like, no, it's not fire in the ass, it's fire in the belly, Chip. And I said, well, be that as it may, but I'm pretty sure if you have a fire in your ass, you are moving on this project. You are getting things done. And I'm pretty sure Senator Kennedy has had some one-liners that we've had to scratch our head about from time to time. Two, but it's true. Yes, it's great that the federal government has shown up. But the fire in the ass is important. That sense of urgency is important. Colonel Jones, by my count, this is day 85 for you on the job. 85 days on the job, and you're already doing a groundbreaking. I like the way you work, sir. Let's keep that up. But look, I know a lot of people get up at this microphone and they thank people, and people kind of get tired of that. But I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that when we go to D.C. and we need legislation passed, or we are pushing for additional funding for coastal restoration and hurricane protection, these two gentlemen sitting over here to my right, Congressman Scalise and Congressman Graves, are our go-to. They have the fire in the ass, okay? They do things, they legislate, they make things happen. And there are 2 million people that live here in South Louisiana. On behalf of them, I want to thank you, Congressman Scalise and Congressman Graves, for everything you do. And let's keep this up. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This is a great day, and a day that has, quite frankly, been 30 years. If you go back to the reconnaissance study, it's 30 years in the making. So God bless you all. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Thank you, Chip. Our next speaker, Mike Fessy, was elected to the Louisiana Senate in 2019. Senator Big Mike Fessy is a longtime resident of Terrebonne Parish. He owns and operates numerous businesses, holds multiple patents, and is a published author. Despite his long list of accomplishments, Senator Fessy is most proud of his large family, all of who live in Terrebonne Parish. In fact, I saw a few of them here earlier. There they are. And he's also a very good personal friend of mine and has done a whole lot. Just got his feet on the ground for the most part, right, in the Senate, and great things to happen in the future. And with that, Senator Mike Fessy.
Thank you, Tony, and I want to thank Gordy for all the hard work he's done and starting this off when he was in the House of Representatives. I want to thank Congressman Scalise and Graves for such a great opportunity of bringing some federal funds. And so I wrote down a few little things yesterday that I'd like to do, and it's so great to see everyone here. We're all here because we understand the importance of the Morganza system. And I want to thank the Colonel and his team for partnering with us to protect this precious place we call home. The local dollars spent on the Morganza system have been worthy investment that our people have willingly sacrificed to build our protection levees. And we greatly appreciate the federal funds that will enable us to complete that system. I believe personally, from my heart, and I think the nation needs to know, that Louisiana is the heartbeat of America. The people that live here and provide the energy and resources that are used throughout our country. Therefore, the levees are not only protecting our homes and businesses, but these levees are protecting our way of life and the nation's life. Whether people know it or not, we live in a plastic world that everybody knows that everything we touch has been touched by petroleum. Whether people know it or not, things have always been put in a position to try to put us in a different direction from the petroleum industry. I am so proud of the people of Terrebonne and Lafourche. We are the nation's backbone because we send the raw products to the refineries that then are turned into everyday products Americans cannot live without. So let's keep moving forward with the Colonel and his great team, and let's protect the homes and businesses in our way of life. And more importantly, let's protect the heartbeat of America. Thank y'all. God bless.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Is Tanner here? Tanner couldn't make it. Okay. And I know everybody's been recognized. I think everybody on our board has been recognized. You know, a lot of people don't realize this. Look, and I see Corey. Corey, I didn't even say hi to you, right? Beryl. I think they did recognize. Hey, Beryl, how you doing? Beryl Amity, one of our state reps. Thanks for being here. And her husband, John. Somebody that I just want to recognize has been involved with this from the very beginning. And I remember all of us standing out in front of the Civic Center screaming and hollering for Washington to send us money. And that's Martin False. And Martin, I'd like to give you a big round of applause for covering this. And with that, Colonel, the Corps, thank you, Congressman Scalise and Garrett. And with that, let's start working and get this thing built. Thank you so much. Okay. Oh, yeah. Hey, we still, well, Reggie, how many?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We didn't want y'all taking off
Russell tried to drive.
Driving's okay. Good. Watch this. Good.
Statement of the date.
Right here, Matt. Good.
I didn't want them tearing up all Levy, so yeah, we put it yeah.
What's that?
Noses in here.
Landslide, baby.
I love that story. I'm glad you brought it up.
We had a member of Congress last night when we tried 6 votes. And so we call her six pack. But I told her the story of Gordy. I said I thought that was a close race. 6.
Mitch.
What do we get?
Do you mind being center, Stacy? Do you mind being center? Great. And then let's put a congressman on each side of y'all. Congressman will flank the court. Let Garrett slide in.
All right.
Where's Truss
We need another shovel.
That's okay. Here you go.
You got another shovel?
Yep. You need another one?
We got one over here. You got one?
We good.
Oh, do you got one?
Okay. There we go.
Red Mississippi.
We're doing a lot of these. I said it's told only good as possible shovels. All right, Garrett, you gonna count? Right?
Go that high. 1, 2, 3.
Ain't no one that's gonna take us back with a little bit of Levy. Just give one more
Two, three.
All right.
Yeah, buddy. There's a start. You started the day. It's gotta be a good job.